everybody, this is the Vikstrand and we are back again in Sweden. Today we are going to take a look at the movie year of 1990. Now shoehorned in between the amazing year of 1989 and the even more amazing year of 1991. 90 is... it's not bad per se really, but it's a pretty lackluster year. Nothing really screamed best of all time kind of a vibe to it. They had a couple of really good movies, which we're gonna take a look at today, but there was nothing here that really stood out as, you know, top of the mountain. In fact, it's one of these rare occasions where we can't even have a honorable mentions because there were no movies except these 10 that would really make the cut for a list like this. So with that said, let's take a look at the top 10 movies of the year 1990. I hope you're familiar with the rules of this, but I'll repeat it anyway. It can be any genre, any country, but the movie has to be originally released in 1990. That's the rules. Everybody good with that? Well, let's go then. Number 10, The Godfather Part 3. It's not a controversial opinion to say that this is the least liked of the Godfather movies, but I've always felt that it was important to the overall arc story of what happened to the Corleones, and we got a sort of conclusion to it. I think it would have felt like something was missing if part 3 hadn't come out. With that said, it isn't as good as the other ones, obviously. Godfather Part 1 and Part 2 are amazing movies, they're untouchable. This one, however, I like the story. I like, you know, the way that Al Pacino tried to, you know, redeem himself and all that stuff. And while the story isn't as good as, let's say, 1 and 2, it is still a fascinating, big-time feel gangster movie that has a lot going for itself. Even though the ensemble isn't as strong as in the previous ones, and the story isn't as grand and epic or stuff like that, it is still a very well produced, very well directed movie. And let me also address the elephant in the room. Yes, Sofia Coppola was pretty bad in this one, but she isn't in that many sequences, and she's just a little bit lackluster. But also she's, you know, teaming up with Diane Keaton and Al Pacino and Andy Garcia and stuff like that, and it's very difficult to shine then. She was greener than a pepper tree, so I'm not really trying to find excuses here, but I think that she gets a little bit of a bum rap because she is not very good, but she isn't terrible. At least I think so. Number 9, Miller's Crossing. This movie, when I saw this movie the first time, I absolutely hated it. I thought it was ridiculous and I hated every aspect of it. When I rewatched it several years later, I discovered that I was wrong. This movie is pretty awesome. The Coen brothers, I've always had a bit of a mixed relationship with them. I really like their stories and I like the way that they direct movies, but I've always felt that there is some aspect that is missing or something that is a little off in all their movies, except The Big Lebowski, which I think is their best movie. But back to Miller's Crossing. It's a pretty awesome gangster movie. It has great characters. It has a pretty awesome cast, and to top it all off, this movie has the greatest begging for your life sequence that has ever been filmed in the history of cinema. It is freaking amazing. Gabriel Byrne, Joe Polito, Albert Finney, John Turturro. It's a very good cast, and it is a nice period piece, and I do love that ending. It is pretty awesome. It isn't perfect. It has some weird tweaks here and there, which I kind of doesn't really understand why they're there, but I still think this is a pretty awesome movie. Number 8, Gremlins 2, The New Batch. I like Gremlins. Gremlins is a pretty good movie, but The sequel is, in my opinion, the far superior movie because it makes fun basically of the entire premise of Gremlins. It is a Herculean effort to make a movie where you take the concept and mocks it, and not only did you make a better movie, but somehow you made a greater sequel. And I think that adding more humor to it was a great idea. It's difficult not to embrace this movie. It has so many great moments, so many great characters, so many great small satire moments, and the pot shots they take at dumbing media and stuff like that. It is great, and they have all these small little Easter eggs. Also, Christopher Lee is in that one, and whenever Christopher Lee is in a movie, I always get a little bit more excited. It is a really great sequel. If you haven't seen this one, but you have seen the first one, see this one. This is amazing. Gremlins 2 is one of the smartest sequels that has ever been made, and I would go so far to say that if you have only seen that one, skip the first one, because it feels just so inferior every time I see it. And also, Gizmo is so fucking cute. Number 7, Awakenings. Robin Williams' maybe best role in a dramatic movie that I've ever seen. He's so great in this one. The story about guy who's been catatonic for several years but now wakes up to a new drug, played by Robert De Niro. Robert De Niro bagged another Academy for this one, and it is so well deserving. It is maybe his best performance in a movie I've ever seen. It is just such a powerful story. It has just so many great moments, and these little small details that Robert De Niro does, and it is such a sad and haunting story. And it may not be for everybody, but I think Awakenings is one of these almost pitch perfect doctor dramas. That's what you would call it. It has fantastic performances, it has great cinematography, and to top it all off, it has one of the best performances I have ever seen in any movie. Not only a Robert De Niro performance, it's freaking amazing. It does drag a little bit, from time to time, but it's still a very good and very well played drama. Number 6, Predator 2. And we shift genre quite rapidly, I would say. I love Predator from 1987. It is one of my favorite movies of all time. I think the biggest problem with Predator 2 is the fact that Predator exists. Now, if the original wouldn't have existed, then this movie wouldn't have felt as gimmicky and as contrived sequelish as I think it feels like. With that said, I think this movie is totally awesome. Switching out Arnold Schwarzenegger for Danny Glover was a bold move, but it works. I love the fact also that he plays against what we normally think about him, in the Lethal Weapon movies. He isn't Murtaugh or anything like this. And I like the fact that we're switching this for the jungle for a concrete jungle. And now, of course, the Predator has more toys to play with, the net and the disc and different forms of ways of looking, which I thought was a little ridiculous. But this movie has such grandeur over it. It feels like a big movie in some ways. It is bloody and violent and brutal, and it has this unsettling and horror feeling to it that lacks in almost every Predator movie that's been made after this one. It still retains the feeling from the original. And Gary Busey is always great, and you have these fantastic lines. "It's okay, ma'am, I'm a cop. I don't think he gives a shit." I also must say that I absolutely love the final confrontation in this movie. It is one of these greatest showdowns of all time. They've learned from the first movie and upped it even more. And it is an excellent action movie with so many great characters. Will Patton is great. Robert Davi shows up for a cup of coffee. Too bad he didn't have more sequences, and the asshole from the TV news and stuff like that. It all plays this like a big tapestry that we're a part of, and it may not be as good as the original, but few movies are, and I consider this one of the most worthy sequels I have ever seen to a movie that good. It isn't as good, but god damn it, it is freaking great. Number 5. Total Recall. Total Recall represents a last stand in movies. It was the final big budget blockbuster movie that came out that was made mainly with actual, sets and actual practical effects. After this, the CGI took over, for better or for worse, but this was the last true great movie made with practical effects. The story about Quaid and his fake journey to Mars is a true Paul Verhoeven special. It has everything: three-breasted hookers, satires, overuse of violence. It has great one-liners, unnecessary blood spill, but on top of that, it is also a great mystery and a great, almost like a detective story, because you don't know where this one is going. It's probably the smartest movie Arnold has ever been to. It has aged considerably well, mostly thanks to the fact that they didn't use that much CGI, if any at all, in this one. That ending is so freaking awesome, and the music is so great, and it is such a fun, entertaining thrill ride that it's difficult not to say that this is one of Arnold's greatest movies. Number 4. Edward Scissorhands. The 90s were truly the greatest decade ever for one Tim Burton. He made almost exclusively great movies during this decade, and it is one of the best performances by Johnny Depp ever. This was before he turned into a big gimmick and just started to do weird shit. This is peak underground Johnny Depp. The story about the boy with scissors instead of hands, who is introduced into this weird suburban world, and it is such an amazing thing to see. It has everything. It has heartbreaking story. It has fantastic performances. The style of the movie, the cinematography, the art decoration, everything is just tippity-toppity perfect. It has so many heart-wrenching moments that makes this an even better fairy tale for the modern age. Is it the best movie Burton has ever done? No, I think he has done even better movies. But this is, for lack of a better term, an almost perfect movie. And to people who who thinks that Tim Burton is just a gimmick and that Johnny Depp always have to play weirdos, see this movie and you will be proven why, for a time, they were the best thing going. Edward Scissorhands is sharp and perfect, and Vincent Price, I miss you so much. You were so great. Thank God you were able to participate in one more movie. Number 3, Die Hard 2. Another example of a very good sequel. I love, with a capital L, the original Die Hard. It was fantastic. This one is not quite as good. It's a little too gimmicky, and it has too many callbacks to the original, and it is a little contrived, but it's still a freaking amazing action movie with stakes, with tension, with great characters, the best workout naked in front of a TV screen I've ever seen. While some of the stuff doesn't make any sense and a couple of sequences has aged terribly, I'd still say that this is a really good, really sharp, and really, really good sequel. They may have switched Nakatomi Plaza for Washington Airport, but at least Bruce Willis seems to care about this one, and at least we have some great explosions, and we have some great moment of tension, and we have a couple of really good one-liners. Number 2, Q&A. If you never heard about Q&A, it is a cop movie. And I thought to myself when I sat down and watched it, it had a silly Swedish title, Lethal Protocol. Every movie released in the 90s had a silly title that had some kind of a intrigue, or dangerous, or lethal, or some kind of combination of it. And I didn't look forward particularly much to this one. But when I saw that Sidney Lumet, of all people, had directed this one, I said, well, maybe there is something here. And the more I saw, the more the story grew, and the more stuff that Sydney, pushed into this one, the more intrigued I got. The story just grew and grew and grew, and different aspects came in from unexpected angles and from unexpected directions. And before I even knew it, I thought to myself, my God, this is amazing. Why isn't this one of the most talked about, and why isn't this one of the most liked and beloved cop movies of all time? I don't know. It's great. It has Nick Nolte at his most Nick Nolte-ish. Now it begins as your normal cop movie and cop thriller, and you're thinking, I know what's going to happen, but then they add more layers to it, they add more aspects to it, and slowly but surely you just get more and more entangled into the story, and you almost forget what it's all about. Now you can make the argument that Lumet crams too much stuff into this one, and I would understand that argument, but I'd rather take that than an oversimplified and nullified normal cop movie. Q&A has one of the most fascinating stories I've ever seen in this type of a film. Q&A is an amazing movie with great performances, masterfully directed, and a great script, and if nothing else, one of the greatest cop movies of all time. And the number one, Goodfellas. Yeah, this doesn't come as a big surprise to anybody, I think. One of the best mafia movies that has ever been made. Fantastic performances by Ray Liotta and Joe Pesci and Robert De Niro. It is, from top to bottom, an absolutely stacked movie with those amazing shots, the steady cam shots and the performances and the voiceovers, and it just feels like this raw and gritty, but still very flashy and still very amazing movie. I think Martin Scorsese has made better movies throughout the years. Here's one, and here's one, and here's one. But it is such an amazing story, and Henry Hill's story, the rise and fall of his gangster empire, is a fascinating one. And they have so many iconic shots, and it has so many iconic moments, and they have the iconic characters and the editing and how incredibly tight it is. And it's such a shame that it had to lose out to freaking Dances with Wolves as the best movie of the year. But that's life, I suppose. Good work there, by the way, Academy. It is not as amazing as some people think it is. I think it is a really good movie, but I don't think it is that good. But it is still one of these almost perfect movies. And the gold standard to what a truly great crime drama is supposed to feel like. And they also have the ability to span multiple decades without it feeling, forced or, they just, swoosh by the entire thing. Goodfellas, the greatest movie of 1990. So that was 1990 in a nutshell. Which one is your favorite of this year? I'll see you next time from, well, so-and-so reviewing, well, such and such. Thank you for watching. Thank you very much.